Now, the government is being urged to scrap the first new coal mine in 30 years. Campaigners have warned it'll devastate the UK's reputation on the climate crisis and contribute to global carbon emissions. However, many feel as much energy as needed is required to actually push through what's sure to be a really tough winter. And let's not forget, folks, we need coal to make steel for those great big whopping wind turbines that everyone wants to build. It comes as Rishi Sunak announces that he'll attend the COP27 conference and that his government's decision to reinstate the ban on fracking. With me now is my good friend, Reform UK leader Richard Tice. Richard, thank you for your time. I mean, this is all part of stupid decisions because of that asphyxiating target of net zero, isn't it?
Good afternoon, Darren. Well, this is extraordinary, isn't it? The opportunity to create hundreds and hundreds of jobs in a deprived area of northwest of England. And it's been stuck in the planning process, the political process, for years and years and years. And here's the madness, Darren. We're importing over 4 million tonnes of coking coal to be used in the UK from places like Australia, where I've just been. 300,000 tonnes of coal from Australia every year, from the US, just until recently, from Russia, from Colombia, from all over the place. And yet we've got it under our feet. So we could actually use our own coal, create jobs here, keep our money here, Darren. And guess what? We would actually save CO2 emissions rather than shipping it thousands and thousands of miles across the world. It absolutely beggars belief. It really does that, we're still importing coal from overseas. We can create so much wealth here. We've got this treasure under our feet, Darren, and I just find it absolutely tragic. And the great thing is we can also be a world leader in emerging new technologies, in carbon capture and storage, so that you capture the CO2 emissions from when you are burning coal, and then you stick that into the huge caverns and reserves off the North Sea or wherever. So again, we can save emissions, we can be a world leader in technology, and we can create British jobs and keep our money here. What's not to like, Darren?
Yeah, well, before I get on to asking you about Craig McKinley MP, the Tory MP, his comments on a new political party being necessary, I can think of one man who might tell us he's the answer. But do you reckon the Tories can actually be trusted on energy? Are we going to be energy independent?
There's no chance at all under the Tories that we'll be energy independent. Let's remind everybody, for 25 years, between 1980 and 2005, we were self-reliant on our own energy. Does anyone remember threats of blackouts and rationing and government subsidies because energy prices were so high? No, because we were using our own energy treasure, and you had none of this nonsense. The moment you had a growing quantity of expensive, heavily subsidised renewables, offshore wind turbines, electricity prices soared, they become ever more unreliable, and we are where we are. We all know what's going on. The threats of rationing is huge. Most people can't afford the current market price for energy. The government's subsidising it. We're in a world of hurt, totally self-inflicted. We've had, I think, 12 years, Darren, 12 years of Tory rule. And this is the mess they've led us into.
A lot of my viewers, Richard, are saying, well, actually, the British should have its own state-owned energy company that can actually invest back into the British people. Would Reform UK back those kinds of moves?
Yeah, look, I think there are key elements of our energy and utility resources where you can have a win-win of what I call a joint venture, where the taxpayer owns, let's say, 50% of these critical utilities, critical energy firms, and then British pension funds on behalf of British pensioners owns the other 50% with private sector management, because governments can fund things. They're incredibly bad at managing things. But there's a win-win solution. And that way, you stop the rip-offs. And when that sort of company has a good year, the taxpayer benefits. When it has a bad year, and all companies do, you take it on the chin. What people are sick and tired of, Darren, is being ripped off by primarily foreign-owned energy producers who are having it off at the moment to a huge extent. And in a sense, the market is the market, but it's us, the British consumer, that's having to pay these high prices. The government's now using taxpayer funding for the subsidies to make these foreign-owned energy firms even richer. You couldn't make it up.
You couldn't, and I dare say a lot of my viewers, this is music to their ears, Richard, but I'm hoping you're going to play sweet, sweet music when I ask you this next question. Craig McKinley, he's saying there might be a new political party that actually captures many members of the electorate who are sick to their back teeth of being told by politicians that they're the ones that'll secure Britain's borders, when actually we've got borders that are leakier than a sieve. How do you think you can actually, one, solve that issue, and two, are you the party Reform UK to do it?
Well, of course we are, Darren. And you understand, Craig, I mean, he can't promote the opposition, but he is deeply concerned, as are many other Tory MPs, that we are going to take tens of thousands, possibly millions of votes from them. We're going up in the polls. We've already taken huge numbers of members from the Tory party who are resigning in droves and joining Reform. We're 6 or 7% in the polls, as I say, and rising. And we're the only party that will stop the boats. We will literally stop the boats. And that's what tens of millions of people across this great nation of ours want to happen. We're all being ripped off. It's an absolute outrage. And it's the kind and compassionate thing to do. We all get attacked by the left for saying that we're heartless. They're the heartless people for continuing to encourage rather than stop this appalling trade.
Absolutely. All right, we'll leave it there. Richard Tice there, Reform UK leader. We'll find out in my emails, Richard, if you've sold to the electorate there.